Welcome to Successful Living with Bill Knapik. Every week we talk about success and everything that goes along with it. You'll learn the principles of success, how to achieve success, and learn to overcome challenges that may be getting in the way of success in your life. You'll hear from Bill Knapik, a radio personality and business development expert, along with insight from special guests. If you're ready to find your path to success or take the success you're enjoying to the next level, stay tuned. Successful Living with Bill Knapik is on right now.
And welcome to the show. I am Bill Knapik, Successful Living with Bill Knapik, and today, Successful Living with Nowell Agent. He is an FBI agent with the Department of Justice and in a very incredible division. It's called the Houston Cyber Task Force. There's cybercrime going on, and now here he is. Nowell, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Bill. Glad to be here.
In fact, it's very interesting. We talk about success, and part of being successful in life is avoiding problems. And today we hear it, Wall Street Journal, every publication and in the news we hear about cybercrime. And it's real, isn't it? And that's your world every day.
Oh, it absolutely is real. You know, one of the things that we see is each and every year, cybercrime becomes more prolific. The number of cybercrime complaints that are reported to the FBI grows, and the dollar amount grows as well. Chiefly because our lives are becoming more technical, more digital. And since that we live more of our lives and we do more of our business transactions and personal transactions online, it's an area that is ripe for fraud, for cyber criminals to exploit those vulnerabilities.
In fact, that you're talking about, that is correct. Our world is so technical these days, and unfortunately, what has happened through the crime has been around since the dawn of man, no doubt. And then here comes someone that's already looking for a way to take and to cheat the system, so to speak. And then here comes technology, and sometimes people get very adept at technology and use it for the wrong purposes, and you see that all the time.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, you bring up a very good point. Crime has been around since the dawn of time. And a lot of times when you hear cybercrime talked about on the news, when you read articles about it, they start talking about what was happening. And I think what people sometimes miss, and we as investigators always try to focus on, is that there is a person. There is a person behind this crime. So understanding that person, understanding what's behind them, what makes them tick, what are those tactics, those techniques, those procedures that individual is using to exploit cyber vulnerabilities is very important to us and something that we spend a lot of time focusing on. And that is what allows us to defeat those cyber criminals.
And give us an idea, just for the regular person that has maybe a couple computers, certainly a phone or two, they're out there. What are some of the things that we do? And based on what you know in this world, how do you advise, say, your family and friends? How do we stay protected just as individuals in terms of our bank accounts, our savings accounts, and things like that in everyday life? That's a big question. But anyway, you get the idea.
Right. You know, one of the things, we talk about is prevention. Because if we can prevent a crime from happening, then we don't have to have an investigation. We don't have a loss. We don't have some type of catastrophic event that's either happened in a person's life or happened within a business or a company. So the old saying that an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. So that's why I'm very glad to be here today to be able to talk to you and talk to your listening audience about prevention, because if you can stop it from happening, that's certainly better than having to go back and remediate. I think people have to really take a step back and understand, how do I live my life from a technological perspective? One of the things I always talk about, everybody says they have a cell phone or a smartphone, and I remind them that it's not a phone. It's a computer. It is a mobile computing device that has the ability to make phone calls. And what we tell people is that when you are living your life online, when you're living your life in the digital age, you have to have appropriate network hygiene, computer hygiene, meaning that, when you're using your phone, that you're using it appropriately. Everybody wants to be on Wi-Fi, which is good. But you've got to know, who are you connecting to? Do you know who you're connecting to? Do you know who potentially could be listening in? When you're doing your banking transactions at the local Starbucks, are you really on the Starbucks secure line, or did somebody else happen to put a device that's there taking your traffic? We have to understand that we have to take certain security measures when it comes to our mobile devices and our computers. Are we doing everything we can? Are we running antivirus? Are we running anti-malware? Do we have appropriate networking devices? When we're doing our activities, when we're using email. Email is usually the route that an actor has into your life. We tell people you have to protect your email. You have to have strong passwords. Don't use the same password. Don't use words that someone could look on your Facebook or Instagram profile and get information about you to be able to guess. You do want to use complex passwords because there are programs out there that will run cycle after cycle to try to guess your password. There are also some other technological things you can do, such as two-factor authentication that you can get. As a matter of fact, if you use a lot of the free email, you have that ability to download a mobile token or a soft token to your phone where the computer or your phone is going to give you something and then you know something. So even if an actor steals your password, he still can't get into your account because there's something he doesn't know. So at the end of the day, the weakest link when it comes to cybersecurity is the human being. So anytime you can come up with a technical solution to assist in that, it's always better.
We are influenced, yes. I like what you said, and that is worth embellishing, that we're walking around with our cell phones. No, we're walking around with computers that happen to make and take phone calls along the way. And at this point, the phone call is a small part of what they do. At this point in time, movies, TV, we all love a drama. We love the technical dramas that are out there, ones that have FBI and bad guys. But there's every once in a while on TV, we see that, or movies, we see the person that has a laptop, and all of a sudden they're into the CIA data banker, they're into Swiss banking, and all of a sudden, and it seems like it's just a few clicks. Now, that certainly for the entertainment and TV and movie purposes seems exaggerated, but what really is the power that you can tell us about that someone has with maybe a way above knowledge, computer knowledge, and a laptop and an internet connection? What can they really do?
So it's interesting that you say that. Obviously, movies and TV do embellish, but there is a grain of truth in what you see on TV. I think one of the biggest reasons that cybercrime is growing each and every year is that whereas you do need to have some knowledge of computers, the level of knowledge is decreased because there are programs that you can either buy online or download for free that if you know how to learn to use a computer application, like you know how to use Microsoft Word, you know how to use Microsoft PowerPoint or Excel, you can use these programs that if you have a basic understanding of computer principles, or you can watch a YouTube video. Then you have the ability to learn how to use these programs. Now, that being said, a lot of times cyber criminals, they cast their net very wide. So one, we were talking about email. Email is exploited very commonly. Actors will then, get a large number of emails, and they will cast a wide net and send these malicious emails out to thousands of people. How many thousands?
And where do they get the names for these thousands? How do they pick let's say it's at 1,000 to keep the number simple. How do they pick those 1,000 people?
Sure. Those email lists have been collated by malicious actors for many years. We have seen where there have been email intrusions into technical companies that have large email lists. Those are stolen. Sometimes those are resold. A lot of times here recently, we've had some schemes where people receive an email saying that this person has information on you and shows you your past email password. Well, if you haven't changed your password in the last 10 years, it was probably from a hack 10 years ago that they still have. And so this email, this information is stolen online, and then it is sold both on the dark web and through other criminal forums that are out there.
So backing up what you said earlier, have a good password, a complex password, and also it sounds like it's a good idea to change your password periodically.
Absolutely. Changing your password regularly is key. And the other key thing is, if you feel that there's something suspicious going on your phone, something that's going on your computer, or you notice changes in your email, you notice that there was a rule that was created that you did not create, or you notice there were emails that were opened that you didn't open, change your password. Okay? What you want to do is that when you notice something suspicious, when something's suspicious. You were talking earlier about keeping your head on a swivel. This is the digital or cyber version of doing that. If something is suspicious, take action.
And we are talking with an FBI agent in the Houston Cyber Crime Task Force, helping us all be more aware and also giving us some ideas of what we can do to stay protected. But You mentioned the dark web. Now, we see that on the movies, too. Is there really a dark web? And give us an idea what that is.
There really is a dark web. The reason that it's called a dark web is that these sites, I mean, they do run on the same internet infrastructure that the internet runs on. But what happens is that you don't have the ability to access that without some special, either a program, some type of program you have on your computer, or you happen to know the actual website, the IP address, and you have a log and a password. So what it is that it's a section of the internet where you have to have special permissions to get to. Now, because that it's hard to get into or hard to find, that's where a lot of nefarious things go on. That's where illegal things are sold, they are traded. It's where people that are getting ready to commit crime or want to commit crime, that's where they talk about what they're getting ready to do, or they give tips on how to do it. We're talking about emails, or more specifically credentials, email credentials or network credentials. If someone has hacked into a network or a series of networks and they have the login information you would need to be able to get in there, they're selling those. And these guys, we see a lot of things that are being done as a service. So let's say you're a guy that wants to get into a computer network. Okay, you don't know how, but you can go online and you can find someone who's selling network credentials. And they will sell you, okay, I have this network, this is the company, here's the login and password. And you pay money, and they give it to you. And then you have the ability to get into that network and basically commit the intrusion and see what data is there.
And it sounds like, going back to what you were saying earlier about the level of technical knowledge someone needs, it's almost in that same example you just gave, it's like a carpenter. It's knowing which tools to use and which tools are available to get whatever the bad job is done or attempt it, right?
That's correct. And the thing about it is, if you look at the current generation doesn't know what life is like without the internet. They were born with the internet, so they've had computers, they've had
I know what devices. It was like before the internet, but you're right. The current generation does not.
Sure. So even someone that would have, a very basic understanding of computer networks, computer principles, still is probably an advanced level compared to previous generations.
Well, first of all, I want to take this time to thank you for your service, because sometimes we see policemen, we know that there's people out there in the military, out there day in, 24/7, protecting us here in our homes and in our lives. But sometimes we forget about the FBI, that you are out there, not just as far as drug cartels, things like that, but certainly in the new world of, I say new, probably decades old, but the world of cybercrime. So thank you so much for your service and all of the Bureau for helping us in every way that you do. And I know a lot of those ways you can't even tell us about, but that's okay. So thank you so much for that. Let's give people an idea. First of all, we don't get to talk to FBI agents. And I'm old enough to remember the show, the FBI. You may not remember, but it was Efren Zimbalist Jr. That has captivated people through the years in movies and TV. But let's tell people, as far as being successful in such an important organization, regimented indeed, give us an idea how you have been a successful agent these many years and some of the things you do just to stay organized in everyday life.
I would say the most important asset that the FBI has is their human capital. It's the people. The FBI does a fantastic job of recruiting the nation's best and brightest. The requirements to get into the FBI from an educational perspective are high. From a moral and ethical standard are high as well. So when you have an organization that hires the best and brightest, you're definitely putting your best foot forward. And then once you get in the FBI, the training that the FBI provides is fantastic. Me personally, I was a finance major in college. After college, I went into the military for 4.5 years, got out in the private sector for a couple of years, and then got in the FBI. So nowhere in that did I know anything about being a law enforcement officer. I don't have any legal training. I'm not an attorney. That's one of the things the FBI does. It recruits from various backgrounds because they've recognized that having people from various backgrounds makes us stronger. But then the training teaches you how to be a law enforcement officer. And like I said, I can't say enough about our instructors at Quantico, at the FBI Academy. They are really passionate about what they do and putting the knowledge into the new agents and intelligence analysts and support employees that they go through there. So that's what kind of gets you started. And then once you get to your field office, you have a cadre of senior agents that have done it. So you go from having your academic background to getting your on-the-job training and seeing how the actual job is done. We have 56 field offices in the FBI, and I will tell you, I've been in 3 different field divisions, and every geographical area is different. Every judicial district is different. So working with people that have done the job in that locale is key. And then the Bureau has continuing education. So like I explained, I don't have a traditional cyber background, but when I started working cyber matters over 10 years ago, the FBI has a very thorough and detailed cyber training curriculum, both from in-house training that the FBI sponsors that really focuses on investigative techniques and methods to catch cyber criminals, but to also go into industry standard training that any IT or IT security professional out there would go to. And that's great because that allows us to work with the public and kind of understand what they're seeing, because the cyber war, the people that are on the front line of the cyber war, it's the private sector. So working with them is crucial in our fight against cybercrime.
When you're talking about training, certainly all areas of law enforcement and FBI, things are going on, new things are happening all the time. But when in your world, in your division, when we're talking about technology, wow, I'm imagining that you must get several memos a week saying, oh, here's a new thing that we found. Here's a new scam or a new ploy that criminals are taking and going forth with. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. The thing about the FBI is that we are both a domestic law enforcement agency and also an intelligence agency. So the information you're talking about is we're conducting our investigations and we're learning about new schemes or new tactics, techniques, or procedures. It doesn't do us any good to hold that. We want to be able to provide that to the private sector and also law enforcement partners. So what's key is we collect that information, that intelligence, that we disseminate it appropriately. And we do that through many different channels, but you're absolutely right. On a weekly, sometimes daily basis, I see new intelligence reports that are coming out talking about new ways that cyber actors are committing cybercrime.
And do you ever say, wow, I can't believe this one, or do you say that several times a week?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing, it changes. There are things that we used to recommend people do when they think something was suspicious that now we've identified could potentially be vulnerable. And I'm constantly, when I'm reading it, if it's something that I don't know, I will go talk to either some of my other special agents, or I would talk to some of our other technical individuals. So on my squad, I have 2 computer scientists that have a degree in computer scientist that have either the knowledge or they do the research, so that we could then also provide that information that's out there so we can stay current.
It would sound like, or I would imagine, any investigation by the FBI or other government agency usually takes time. And like anything else, when we work towards something, we feel the idea of success or that we've done the right thing when it all culminates together. When evidence is obtained, and I'm imagining I may be off base here, but you may have been investigating, observing an individual, gathering evidence, but there's a moment where you confront that individual and they have the right to, they're not guilty till found in court as guilty. But give us an idea when it comes together where you actually make the arrest, and you're involved in that. Is that correct?
That's right.
What is that like?
I will tell you, investigating cybercrime can be extremely challenging because everybody has watched the various CSI television shows that are on there, so we know about DNA evidence, and there are similar things like that in a cyber investigation. However, depending upon the instance and the victim and what's turned on or what's turned off, we may not have evidence. So anytime we have the ability to collect sufficient evidence to sufficiently charge someone with a crime, it does take quite a bit of time to do that, but it is extremely fulfilling when we get to that point where we make that arrest to know that that justice is being served. Because we know that for every criminal that we take off the street, that's another victim that's not going to be victimized. That's another house payment or down payment on a house that's not going to be stolen. That's somebody's bank account information that's not going to be stolen. It's extremely fulfilling.
And the other reason I asked the question is because we think of other crimes where perhaps when the arrest is made, or I'm thinking of this, the person might have guns, it might be a violent scenario, but here I'm in some ways imagining the person that is doing the crime that's being arrested as someone mild-mannered, I don't know, where carrying a laptop around instead of a gun,
right,
and just saying, what, me? I didn't do anything.
Right. So talking about our training. So FBI agents, all FBI agents, regardless of the violation you work, we have to train. We have firearms training. We have regular qualifications. We have tactical training that we have to complete because we have to go out and effect arrests. And when you knock on that door, you don't know what's on the other side. And one of the things we found in cybercrime is that some cyber criminals, whereas, yes, you think they may sit in someone's basement, they may have a diversified criminal portfolio where they're also involved in more violent crime. So absolutely, we have to be very careful, both for officer safety and also subject safety, because when we effect an arrest, we want to make sure that once that person's in custody, that everything is done as safely as possible.
And with the last minute or so, what else would you like people to know? What else should they do to be on guard and to prevent any of this crime?
Knowledge is power. You can't go online to a news agency or pick up a story, a paper to not learn something about a cybercrime that has happened. I would tell you, educate yourself. I also encourage people to go to the Internet Crime Complaint Center. That's letter C, number 3.gov, ic3.gov. If you're a victim of a cybercrime, please go there to report it. Fill it out completely. And also every year they publish a report that talks about the most significant cybercrimes they saw for the year prior. So it talks about what that crime is, what the losses were, and ways to protect yourself.
Thank you so much, Agent. Super awesome. And thank you again for your service. You've been listening to Successful Living with Bill Knapik. And today, with the United States Department of Justice Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Houston Cyber Task Force. Thank you so much. Until next week, go to radiobill.net, and thank you again.
Thank you.